Actually, you never lose it, do you?
Now that's impressive. That is impressive, but pressure's on now. What happens with this one, Alan?
Well, somebody moves the goals here, I think. It's Clemenson goals. You definitely move. Blame the referee. You should have taken it again.
OK, let's move away from the charity and the good fun. Let's turn our thoughts to the big summer story, really, of this football. The amazing upheaval at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, which saw Terry Venables ousted as chief executive, and a return to White Hart Lane of a very familiar face, as Clive Tilsley reports.
As last season drew to a close, few Premier clubs appear to have their house in better order than Spurs. Improving in the league, FA Cup semi-finalists, home to the top bracket's leading goalscorer, Teddy Sheringham, and awash with youthful potential. But during the summer, the House of Tottenham washed its dirty linen in full view of its public. Outside the High Court, a house revolt was brewing over Alan Sugar's decision to show Terry Venables the door. Enter Ossie Ardiles as the choice of the beleaguered chairman to try and calm the troubled waters. Re-enter Ardiles, a breath of fresh air from Tottenham's past. Ossie readily admits he'd been keeping a close eye on Tottenham present and the unfolding summer saga. So when the alarm call came, he had no qualms about answering it.
I never have any apprehension at all to take this job. No one at all.
I mean, it would be understandable however much you love the club as to whether or not this was really the right time to come back.
I don't think it's never some kind of right time or wrong time to come. It was always my ambition to be here. I am delighted to be here.
The villain of the piece has been portrayed as your chairman, Alan Sugar. What impressions have you formed of him?
He's very direct. He's very direct. Somehow he had a knack to go into the heart of the matter. So that is something very, very good indeed. In the other hand, I have to say I am in an ideal position because he is not involved at all in the football part. I made the decision. I decide who is coming, who is going. I decide how much I'm going to pay the players and so on.
And doesn't show any sign of wanting to be involved in the football side?
Not at all. He doesn't get involved in the football part at all, and that is, I have to say that a lot of managers will be pretty jealous of me in that respect.
Some of the leading Tottenham players weren't so willing to wipe the slate clean at first. Neil Ruddock was a prime mover in a resistance movement to Venables' dismissal. But so far, he's the only one to follow Terry out of the club. Ruddock's replacement is Colin Calderwood, who's followed Ardiles from the manager's spell in charge at Swindon. More significant, maybe, is the addition of Jason Dezelle, signed from Ipswich to reinforce Tottenham's commitment to craft and style. Venables' own fight for fairness goes on, but slowly the dust is settling.
Have you actually had to win certain players over? Has that been part of your task?
That has been part of my task, no doubt. And this part of my task is not completed yet, but I am certainly trying very, very hard, trying my best to do it.
I mean, there was no sign of an atmosphere down at the training ground this morning, but you're saying that one or two are still a bit suspicious of the new regime?
Maybe they are, and it's understandable. But it's my job to make him feel very, very wanted. Like I said, it's a lot of speculation with us about we are buying players, selling players, and so on. But it's natural that to happen because we are a big club and so on. But I would say at the moment, because in the way we are, all these rumors are a bit too much, to be perfectly honest. And of course, the players are reading all these things and somehow feel a bit upset, a little bit unsettled. So it is my job to settle everybody down.
You were very persistent in your attempts to bring Steve Perriman back to the club too. What's the chemistry there? What's the balance between the pair of you?
First, Steve is a very, very close friend of mine. He's somebody I can rely totally, and he knows this club inside out, probably more than anybody else, certainly more than me. So really, Steve is going to be a wonderful, wonderful asset to the club, and for me personally, to have him as my number two is just great, great news.
Do you have a slightly different approach towards football, maybe?
Maybe, yes. I am a little bit more of a romantic, if you wanted to put it like that. If you leave it to me, I will play with one goalkeeper and 6 midfielders and 5 front players. He is much more down to earth, and from that point of view, he will help me very, very much.
You get ideas and he says, no, we can't do that.
That's right, yes.
I wonder, is a stylish Tottenham, though, a prerequisite for you? Is that really important, almost as important as being successful?
Certainly. It has been always my trademark, if you wanted to put it like that, in West Brom, in Swindon, and Newcastle, even not being successful as I was in Newcastle, but it was always, my principle is always to play very, very good, beautiful football. I believe very strongly that football is an art, it's not a science, it's not about seeing things, analyzing computer and things like that. No, it's a beautiful game, it's an art and it should be played that way.
A beautiful game, that's what Pele always used to say, Alan.
Yeah, it's a great line. But he's got a great chance there, especially if he plays 1-6-5. I don't know if that's within the laws of the game, 12 players on the pitch. But
nice, he does have a philosophy of how it should be played.
Yeah, and I think he'll try and play that way at Tottenham. You know, he played himself that way, pass and move. But certainly, as long as the Venerable Sugar confrontation goes on, the club will be in turmoil. The newspapers will pick it up for all the wrong reasons, and there'll be a cloud hanging over supporters, manager and players. And the sooner it's resolved, the better for everybody concerned. I don't think the computer's been too kind to them either. First game of the season, you really don't want to be drawn against one of the promoted clubs away from home. You're better getting them 2 or 3 months down the line when they've had a couple of defeats and been softened up a bit. But certainly to go to a rejuvenated Newcastle, a frightening prospect first day of the season.
It really is down to the players' response, isn't it? I spoke to one young Tottenham player the other day, and he was saying that Ozzy is really just telling them to play. It's about confidence, and he's just insisting on that philosophy that he holds.
That's right. It is all about confidence to go out and play, and you've got to be together. 11 players that go on the pitch today for Tottenham have got to forget about all the problems and go and play for the club and be together as a unit.
Well, it certainly is quite a challenge for Ozzy today as he takes Spurs to Newcastle, First Division champions by some 8 points. And of course, Ozzy was manager there for 11 months before he was succeeded by Kevin Keegan. We're going to be hearing from Kevin Keegan in just a moment, but first, Barry Davis gauges the mood within the city of Newcastle.
Just the best team in the land now, like. Just who can feel? Not us. No way.
They get like 11 games on the trot again, then they'll just be champions by Christmas.
They are now, I think, going to rub shoulders with the best. And as long as Hall and Keegan keep together for a period, I would think of 4 or 5 years at least, they're going to be alongside Liverpool, Man United, Spurs, Arsenal and Villa. And they could make a mould, I think, which if one of them goes could last another 5 or 6 years. No, this is a great period.
Advance ticket sales have already pulled in £7.5 million, and there are 5,000 people on the waiting list. In an area of marked unemployment, to follow Kevin Keegan's team is a priority.
There's something about Kevin that he just captivates, like, you know, like the spirit of Newcastle. And he's got so much like charisma, and he puts so much into his job. And I'll be surprised if he's not the England manager in the next 2 years.
If we get off to a good start, watch us go. As John Hall would say, watch us come through.
The 3,000 supporters who travelled to Ibrox for a pre-season friendly saw their team do just that, beating Rangers 2-1. But in their final warm-up game at Anfield against Liverpool, one challenge on Peter Beardsley left Newcastle to start the season without the man whose experience was to be a guiding light. Even so, enthusiasm is undimmed.
The public have expected success, so they've been hurt more, you know, when the success hasn't been there. A bit silly, but that's the way it has been. We expect Newcastle and Sunderland to be on the top, and you know we've had to wait such a long time. The people on Tyneside, not on Wearside, the people on Tyneside, you know, feel that this can be a breakthrough with Keegan and with this quality team he's assembling, and I agree with them.
It will be stretching a point a bit to say that all is ready. They were still battening down seats yesterday, and the chairman's advice is not to stand too close to the paint. But the vision of the future, with the completion of the Leazes End stand, the Gallagher End will follow, is as clear as the hopes of those to whom success means so much.
I'm expecting top 6 and win one of the cups. That's what I'm after.
Everybody wants to be part of sort of a winning team, and everybody wants to wear Newcastle United shirts and T-shirts. It does matter. Everybody's happier when they're winning, you know, definitely.
Well, Kevin, you're not lacking in motivation, are you?
No, it's tremendous around the town. It's been like this now virtually for 12 months because we had such a good start last season. And then it ended with us maybe everyone thought we were stumbling a little bit, but we got it right back on track and ended up with a great performance here against Leicester. So they've never really come down, the people, and it's nice it should happen to the Geordies. You know, they've waited a long time, as people said on those clips.
Now, the chairman has clearly speculated to accumulate. I mean, there's a lot of money being put in, and you need to be successful. It's quite a jump between the old First Division and now Premier Division, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're in with the big boys now, but it's a big club. And what makes me confident is the players, simple as that. I mean, it's lovely what's happening here. And the chairman and the board of directors have been 100% behind me. I mean, I've never had a problem. If I want a player, he's there. If I wanted to sell a player, I've had a problem. I've had more problems getting players out. He seems to want to keep hold of everybody, and he sometimes doesn't realise you have to prune as well for the sake of the players as much as for the club. But it's a club that's going places, and I think one of the quotes on there that there's a mould there for the next 5 or 10 years. I think is a very, very wise thing to say. I think the structure's right now at the club.
Talking about selling players, there can't be too many managers who get promoted and then sell their 2 top scorers from the promotion season, which you've done in Kelly and Gavin Peacock.
That's right. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, both of those lads did a terrific job for us last season. But I think everybody knows when you go into the next league, you've got to have different ideas, you've got to have a different way of playing. And certainly I felt that the fees we got for them were right, so I could try something else. And again, although, as I said to you, the board weren't 100% behind me in selling players, they've never, ever questioned anybody I've bought. So we'll see. I'll be judged on what happens this year, and of course that will be thrown back at me over the season if we don't score goals or we're not successful.
And you've had an unlucky start because clearly Peter Beardsley was important. I mean, you're going to miss him now for a quarter of the season, aren't you?
That's right, we're going to miss him, and we're going to miss Mark Robinson, and we're going to miss Brian Kilcline. But we have accumulated a very good squad here, Barry, you know, and we've now got a chance today to see just how strong that is. We'll have a lad playing who, I think, to be fair, most of the 35,000 here today won't have seen, and that's Nicky Papavasalou. And I've no qualms about putting him in. He's done very well at Rangers and places like that, so his pedigree's right, he's played international. We've got a good squad. I'm more interested in coming down here. I was worried about my seats. We've sold every seat in the place, and Terry Mack says make sure he doesn't sell the dugout. There's a platinum club, there's a boardroom club, there's going to be a dugout club before the end of the season.
You've also bought Malcolm Allen just as the season's starting. I mean, obviously he's going to take the Beardsley role a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to play him up front today. He's a player I've liked a long, long time. We put a list out. Obviously, we were forced into it a little bit more than we'd like to be by the fact that Peter got injured. But I wouldn't like people to read into that he's here as a stopgap. I like him. He's a bubbly little player. He's a Newcastle United type player. He's a type of player that these people want to see here. And when you talk about Newcastle fans, to sum them up in one sentence, they want us to win. But more important than that, they want us to play well and play in a style like we did last season. That's what has captivated those people. It's not just winning promotion to the Premier League, it's the style in which we did it, and that's what we're going to try and do in the Premier. It won't be as easy, we won't dominate games as much, we won't have as much possession, but we've got the players to do it. I believe it, and if they believe it, and most of them are very confident lads, we've got a real chance of causing a few surprises.
Thanks, Kevin.
Pleasure.
Well, I think they'll do well, but I hope they do well anyway for the supporters, because they supported them right through the bad times, and it'd be great if they could finish in the top 6. I can't really see them challenging for the championship. They've got 2 or 3 injuries, but Keegan and McDermott have got a vast experience to the big time. As I say, I think they'll do well.
If it was just the passion of the fans and the love of Newcastle Football Club, then they'd win everything, wouldn't they?
They'd win everything in sight, and yeah. I'm sure at 3 o'clock today, Newcastle will be the place to be.
The interesting thing I thought Kevin said was that the thing that makes him confident is his players, and that is reality.
That is reality. That's the most important thing. Once they cross the white line, the supporters can help you, but it's the players. It's all about players, and when they get in that pitch, it's, again at 3 o'clock today, it's these players that have got to do the business for them.
So you fancy them to do reasonably well without particularly...
I think they'll consolidate. I would imagine he'd be quite happy to finish in the top 10.
Or a cup?
Maybe.
OK. Well, we've already said a little bit earlier what a testing day it is for Ozzy Ardiles having to go to Newcastle, but a testing day also for one of his former teammates at Tottenham Hotspur, but now the new manager of Chelsea.
You cannot guarantee silverware, but what you can guarantee is the style of football that you're playing.
Side Style could be Glenn Hoddle's middle name. He likes to describe himself as a technical player, which suggests hard work as well as inborn gifts. Last season, something else emerged: leadership. On and off the pitch, Hoddle steered Swindon to promotion and found himself high on the list of biddable managers. Chelsea beckoned and Hoddle went. Wiltshire's loss, South West London's gain. King's Road, after all, has always been noted for style.
I believe that's the way the game should be played. It's the way the game was played at the clubs that I've played for as an individual, at Tottenham and at Monaco. I love to play that way myself, and I love to watch that type of football. So
So you take a style and mould the players to it, rather than look at the players and find a style?
Yeah, I believe the old cliche in football is to say, well, the players are not good enough, we'll play this way to simplify things. I don't really think that works. I think there is talent in England, certainly right through the youth levels, right through. It's a matter of guiding them and giving them a little bit of a system that you feel will give them a little bit of extra time and space on the ball to use their abilities.
Hoddle showed in pre-season games that his own play is still at a very high level. But how important is it for him to fill the dual role?
It's about performing well. If I warrant a place in the team, that is the number one object. And if I feel that's right, then I'll continue to play. 47 games last year for Swindon took its toll mentally and physically. I've got two jobs to do, and it is a very, very difficult job. But in the same vein, you've got the most important period of the week, the 90 minutes of football. I can affect that.
If I read the quotes right, you put down a very firm marker about your position in Chelsea Football Club, your authority. How are you getting on with the chairman?
Well, there's no problems. I think people are trying to read into too many things. Ken and myself have had a good relationship so far. I think how the Gavin Peacock deal coming in and the Andy Townsend deal going out proves exactly that's the foundation of how we're going to work. And that went smoothly, and that's how the club's going to be run. Yeah, sure. I mean, the football side the decisions need to be made by the football side, but there's a club to be run and there's a football team to be run, and sometimes the two things are apart.
The arrival of Gavin Peacock, a consistent scorer for Newcastle, has been Chelsea's only major signing. For the moment, Hoddle keeps an open mind.
I would say the squad would need strengthening, but we've got 34 pros as it is now, and that's probably too many. So maybe there might have to be some shuffling about, but we'll wait and see. What I won't do is I won't let talented players that I feel that are right for my system, the way I want to play, go from the club.
I've heard people saying in the last couple of weeks, a bit lightly, but they're saying there isn't a better passer in the game. England have got a couple of important games coming up. Does that fire still burn?
That'd make history, wouldn't it? The first player to play for England and be a manager himself. No, I think realistically, perhaps them days are gone. I've got a big job to do. If I was asked, I would obviously have to think about it. But at the end of the day, I've got a big enough job running Chelsea Football Club and playing as well myself.
Gerald Sinstad reporting, what a romantic thought there that Glenn Hoddle's international days aren't over. That pass we just saw, look,
it was a bad
international
pass.
class.
A bit extra spin in it, just
Incredible.
right to his feet. What a great player. I think he's got a big job to do at Chelsea. Last season they're a long way from winning things. If you're looking for silverware, then I would think you'd have to buy 2 or 3 players. He's lost one of his better players, Townsend, to Aston Villa. I think he's got a hard job in his hands.
I was looking at a few facts, Alan. I think they've only won the championship once in 1955, and I think it's 11 managers in 19 years.
Yeah, they've got high turnover there, but certainly Glenn Hoddle going in there, he did well at Swindon last season. I think he's got his own ideas. He'll try and play the game the right way, same as Ardeel is. I hope he doesn't play sweeper. I don't think he is a good sweeper. He's a class midfield player, as we saw in that little clip there. His passing is a joy to behold, really, is both feet. I think it's great for the neutral if he plays, because he is a class player and he's one you would go and pay to watch.
He has added, hasn't he, in the last 24 hours? Jakob Kjellberg, Danish international, added to Gavin Peacock's coming.
Yeah, so he's obviously got the money to buy the players. It's important that he gets off to a good start. If he plays himself just in front of the back four, wins a couple of games, then the team will have that added bit of confidence, and they can go from strength to strength.
Kjellberg's a defender, isn't he?
He's a centre back, so that would mean possibly that Glenn will play in midfield, and I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, well, we certainly wish him well. And by the way, the third new Premiership manager this season is Glenn's former number 2 when he was at Swindon, John Gorman. And we'll have a feature on John and Swindon in next Saturday's Focus. But talk of recessions is made to look somewhat foolish by a close-season football transfer market in excess of £55 million, 55 million. And that's with 6 Premiership players being signed for £2 million or more, as Ray Stubbs reports.
In monetary terms, nothing beats Manchester United paying a record £3.75 million for Roy Keane. Aston Villa invested £2.1 million in Andy Townsend. Liverpool have spent £2.2 million on Nigel Clough and £2.5 million on Neil Ruddock. Brian Deane cost Leeds £2.9 million, and Sheffield Wednesday agreed to pay £2.7 million to bring Des Walker back from Italy. Walker is more than happy to be Wednesday's new number 17. When his transfer from Nottingham Forest to Sampdoria didn't work out, it dented his confidence. It seriously affected his international form, and some English managers began to think twice about him, but not Trevor Francis.
I think that was a mental thing. I think what had happened in Sampdoria, playing left back and then out the team, it completely destroyed him. I think it would have been better for him if he had a complete rest during the summer and not played at all for England. That's my own personal view. But I think that perhaps, because 1 or 2 of the really big ones decided not to go for him, it certainly helped my position. And I'm pleased to have him here.
I'm not a left back, and I never will be a left back as long as I'm playing. And I think after that, I think I knew, well, if they were going to put me left back, my days were a little bit numbered, and I think your confidence does tend to go a little bit. But as I say, coming back to Hillsborough, and they've given me my licence to play the way that Des Walker plays, I think it's been great, and my confidence come back basically in the first 2-3 minutes of the first game.
And as to his pace, Wednesday believe he can match almost anyone.
Des was telling me that during build-up, for the summer tour, they did 1 or 2 tests, 50-metre sprints along with Les Ferdinand and Ian Wright, 2 of the quickest forwards in English football, and he came out on top. So apart from Linford Christie, there isn't anybody quicker.
For sure, Sheffield United didn't want to lose Brian Deane, but Leeds manager Howard Wilkinson was determined to bring him to what is his hometown club.
I think and hope that he'll do for us in goal-scoring terms what Lee Chapman has done for us over the past 4 years. And if Brian can add to his performances in terms of pace and control and his ability to go past people, then we'll be pleased. And he's got age on his side because he's mid-20s, so he's got his best years to come.
At 6'3", he has the stature, he leads the line with aggression, and 25-year-old Brian Deane believes he can score the goals that will revitalise Leeds and bring him international recognition.
That's obviously my aim after coming from Sheffield United. I had a goal-scoring season last season. I scored 20 goals, so I feel as though we create good chances here, and I don't see any reason why I can't do that.
We're a better squad than we were 2 years ago when we set off and won it. It's down to now keeping our sleeves rolled up, being prepared to sweat, staying honest. If we do all those things, we've got enough ability at the place to give anybody a game.